Good morning. Welcome to Church on the Net. This past week, I had a bit of a wake-up call. I had a couple of procedures done, and while I was under anesthesia, it kind of gave them a scare. They couldn't get me to keep breathing. They did. Everything worked out fine. But it made me realize, what do we hold on to in this life? And why do we grieve? And why do we chase after things that are very temporal? I love sometimes way too hard and chase way too deep. Sometimes for people who really don't care. And then there's those who do. But then I was reminded why I do that and who I do that for. I believe that I am an ambassador for Christ. And as an ambassador, you represent heaven. So recently my son made a song list for me of old songs I used to listen to all the time, and one of those was Life Song. And it fit real good at just the right time, because I want my life song to always sing of him and of his kingdom. And that's what I do. That's why I do what I do, and why so many of you probably think I can be a pain, or I don't quit talking about certain things. So today is kind of a touchy subject for some. But the coolest thing, we're going to look at two verses. One's a story in Timothy, and one's in Mark. And you'll see them both listed before down in the messages. If you didn't notice, all the notes and everything are in the comments or in the description. But the first story is just so cool because the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the religious leaders of that day, were always trying to trip Jesus up, always trying to make him fall. And he was the Son of God. They couldn't get that through their head. They didn't understand how Jesus could be the Son of God. They thought he was just a man, and he wasn't. So the temple taxes were due, and they came to Peter, and they questioned him about Jesus. And the coolest thing is, Jesus took care of the need. See, he says, Peter, go and fish, and the first fish that you catch, look in his mouth. Temple tax was 2 drachma. He said there'll be 4 drachma in that fish's mouth. Take care of our taxes, mine and yours. You see, Jesus always gives us what we need, and sometimes he gives us in abundance. People will always get upset about tithing. But the process is really simple, and I learn it over and over again because I get spanked. I make mistakes all the time about it. Because we want to hold on to everything that we have because we think we have made it, rather than it's a gift from his hand. No matter what you have, it's a gift from his hand. And if you follow along with what he says to do, he says, test me in this and I'll show you. Now, we're not supposed to test the Lord, but he's begging us to test him. Bring into the house what belongs to him, and he'll pour out heaven for you. We live this in our lives. What we have in bills, what I bring in to pay, doesn't match, but we pay the bills and live decently and comfortably all the time. Now, this is where faith comes in, because, see, I believe that we're just going to give Monica and I a house of our own. a brick or stick house in the country. We want a little bit of land, just a little bit, just to grow own vegetables and maybe some fruit trees and things. I believe he's going to do that fairly soon. I don't know how. I try to be faithful. Whenever money doesn't come in from the ministry, and by the way, those budgets are coming out. They are. But I pick up whatever I can. And it breaks my heart sometimes that I can't help as many people as I want to, or I just don't have it. But there's plenty of times when I go without. Not my family, but I go without. To help provide for somebody who needs food, a place to stay, encouragement. And truly, most of the time, ministry is a thankless job, but it's so worth it to please Him, to please Jesus. And I've said this before, my dream and my desire for DLM is to encourage people to have a mad relationship, a mad love relationship with Jesus. And my dream, hopefully my goal is to one day have a retreat center where gentlemen can come if they need help. They don't need to be an alcoholic or drinking. I mean, it doesn't bother me if they are, but if they're just down on their luck, or they've been beaten up by society, a place for them to go and rest and relax and give back and grow and get their feet back under them. There's a lot of places for everybody else, but there's not many for gentlemen. And I have truly grown to love. Not always reciprocated, but I have truly grown to love and appreciate my mighty men and the gentlemen that have been through our program. To be honest, I believe that some of them probably really hate me. That's okay. They hated Jesus too. I'm in great company. So we're coming to the second story. When the Sadducees and the Pharisees are trying to trip Jesus up again, and the Hebrew people, the Hebrew children had a hard time with giving. They just did. Not all, but as a whole. So they come to Jesus about taxes again. And Jesus is cool as a cucumber. It's like, who's on the coins? Well, Caesar is. He said, well, then give to Caesar what's Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. Now, some people had said it doesn't talk about tithing in the New Testament, and that's just a flat-out lie. There's talk about tithing all through the Bible. And it's true, we need to give it with a cheerful heart. For it to have its most effectiveness, you need to be cheerful about it. But that means more than anything else that you're appreciative of what God has done for you. Because He only asks for 10%. 10% of what He gives you. He asks for back in tribute. And why does He ask for that back? To keep the ministry going. I always tell people, where you're growing spiritually is where you need to tithe. Who are the ones that are pushing you to have a relationship with God? And what are you doing? Who's pursuing you passionately for Jesus? We have people that support our ministry. We do, and I am so thankful for them. We have a few that we have a wide perspective, and I hear people say, "Well, I just don't have it." Well, I want to put this in your ear, just in your ear. One of the first people that ever supported our ministry was a little lady, single mom, who didn't have hardly anything. And she supported. She said, I can't do anything but just pray. Like, fine. You pray. Pray and put it on your heart. And then she said, I can't do anything but this. $25 a month. I'm like, fine. If it's 5, 10, God will bless it. She did. to the point where she's been given like 50 since we first started, like within a couple of years. And when I worked for Youth for Christ, for a while, when I was on staff with them, she gave to both the same amount. And God has blessed her. Because she lives in one of the most economical, hardest places to live. But she tithes. And God has blessed her. She's in her 80s now. And she's one of my fiercest and strongest prayer warriors. And you know, the thing is, she's a busy little lady, working for the church and her family. But the coolest thing I like about her is when I call, if she doesn't answer, I hear from her. If she says she's going to call back, she does. She delivers. The other family is a family who's been giving since its very conception. Their daughter was in our program, one of their daughters. She's a sweet girl. And she was in my youth program and where we first started in Markleville in 1995. And they've been faithful all this time. I could give you story after story about God's faithfulness because his people have been faithful. Tithing is not about him, it's about us. It's about our act of worship. It's about respect. I give paranoidly because I do it because of this. It's not because I'm keeping checks and balances. It's because I'm paranoid. For years, I didn't tithe what I needed to. And I got spanked over and over again. To the point that I realized it's all about him. It's always, always all about him. And how much I want people that I care about, even if they tell me to F off or they whatever, how much I want them to not have hell as an inheritance, as a legacy, but rather have heaven. Now, I have guys that are dealing with pride. They think they know their own way, and I have plenty of guys ask me to endorse stuff as a part of DLM. DLM's been around for over 30 years, a little over 30 years. Even when I didn't have it as a program, I was doing it. I didn't realize it, but I was. I've been in ministry for over 40 years, and DLM's been really a part of it. The one who first dreamed of DLM was killed in 1985. A good buddy of mine named Bruce. Our dream was that people could begin to let down their pride and live truly, honestly for Christ. Some people don't like that. Some people have told me that my program's too elementary. Okay. It hasn't changed. Well, it's changed in 30 years and it's grown and you can truly get out of it as much as you want to. I just find a lot of people don't want to grow. They don't want to go further. They want their own way. What do you want? Do you want the full blessing of the Lord? Do you want everything that he has for you? My life verse is Jeremiah 29:11 through 14. And it's a promise. But every promise in the Bible has a requirement. Seek the Lord and you will find him. What does that mean? That doesn't mean sitting on your butt listening to preachers all the time. That means getting your nose in the Bible. Don't understand it? Ask questions. Drop your pride. Quit playing games and get right with Christ. Do what he asks you to do. You see, in the law, those first 5 books of the Bible, God knew we could never live up to that standard. And we kept screwing up. So Christ came and he died for us. He's the fulfillment of that law. And he took the 10 Commandments and he squished them into 2. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. But we're so afraid of everything, and our pride is so great, we can't even do that. We're so stuck on ourselves that we think we are the ones that are making the money, instead of trusting him for every crumb, every drop of change that comes our way. It's been about 8 years ago now. I had no car. I try to make sure Monica's got a decent car, even when she's got a nice car now and she's taking care of it. But I kept driving these dumps. They kept blowing up. They kept catching on fire or whatever. They were old, beat up cars. I'm like, Lord, I need a car. Just give me anything. And he directed me to a little Mustang. I walked into a dealership and I said, Lord, if this is going to work, it's going to work out. And if it's not, I'll just keep driving in wrecks. So I walked into the dealership that Micah, my youngest, had some dealings with and trusted. They're good people. And I said, I need a car. I got no money down. And I can only do about $100 a month. And he said, pick a Mustang. And there were 2 Mustangs. Now, I picked the one that was the automatic because I thought Monica may want to drive it. She doesn't. And that's fine. She's got a nice car. My Mustang has gone through a lot of things, but it still starts for me and it still runs. And it's old. It's 98. And I got to get some stuff done to it right now. Don't know where the money's coming from, but it'll come. Got to get it registered. What are you trusting God for? Do you believe it's a house? Do you believe it's to pay the bills at the end of the day? To see your children, if they live in other states? Is to bring them to you? Why are we playing games with things that are so very important? When it came time that Jesus needed money to pay his taxes, he got it from the mouth of a fish. And he didn't just take care of his taxes. He took care of Peter's too. Had 4-drachma in that fish's mouth. And Jesus said, go and get it and take it and pay our taxes. The story's there in the Bible. It's in Matthew. It's in the notes. Render to Caesar's what's Caesar's and to God what is God's. Have you given God even a fifth of what he deserves? Don't complain if he takes it back then. Don't complain if you lose everything because you were unfaithful in the little that he gives you. I don't care what it is. You see, I told a gentleman one time, he said, I only make $200 a month. Fine, that's $20 a month. And trust that he's going to take care of you, and he did. It was easy to give $20, harder when it was $5,000 because he had increased it that much. And then you begin to think, well, I own everything and I do this and that. And then, no, it's still God's. And he does with it what he wants. Take your hands off of it and let him have it. What will God do for you today if you only just get off of your high horse and trust him? I love each and every one of you. I know that this may have not inspired you to want to help our ministry, but if you do, there's ways down there too. We have almost everything known to man. Cash App, Zelle, it all. Have an amazing Sunday and know that you're loved.